Welcome back, everybody, to our final Big Brother Canada rankings of the season. How's it going with you two?
Good.
I caught up both weeks of Big Brother today.
That's a lot,
Damn.
especially since I don't like the episodes. So that's a lot.
How's the last week or so of Big Brother been for you, actually, since you're catching up?
I mean, it's just a mess. I mean, it's always kind of been a mess, but this is just a huge mess and really bad gameplay. I'm not impressed with any of them. Honestly, I think Tara coming back into the house was like the best kind of gameplay I've seen from like this crew, because of she could have come back in like guns blazing, and I feel like she came back in and was just like, oh, why'd you guys get rid of me, and just like kind of just jumped right into being, I don't know, I feel like she played it strategically the way she came back into the house.
I agree with that.
I disagree.
And me and Alex last week were hoping that she got back in just for the sheer chaos that we thought would happen. But I agree with you after watching her interact with Brayden and Ty on the feeds. Like, she just settled right back in there. I mean, she didn't come out guns blazing, and she has a chance that they might take her, but she still really needs to win like the final four veto in order to kind of secure her place. But
I still don't think she's going. I think she'll be next to go. But Nick, why do you disagree?
I mean, I just feel like, first of all, it's a third failed to twist this season, because I mean, I feel like production's just trying their hardest to fuck up an otherwise entertaining cast. So the twist itself, she basically just came back to be on the block again and again and again because she was voted out. So I don't really see it as good gameplay. I see it as she was already voted out. So they're like, I mean, I don't know.
I think I'm thinking like previous to her being put on the block. I think the way that she came in is how she should have come in. And maybe she could have skirted not being on the block. I think that Brayden's noms were ridiculous. I think Kiefer should have been on the block. But
yeah, it's debatable.
I think for his game, that's the best move to make. I don't think anybody wins against Tara, so why you keep trying to get her out is beyond me. Wins against anybody. I think anybody wins against her. Is that what I said?
Yeah, and that's why you keep her in now. And I think that's why Ty wanted to keep her and get rid of Beth, because her resume compared to everybody else, even though she was the HOH when Jed went out, she's the GOAT that everybody wants to get to the final two now, because they can win against her.
I mean, I don't know. I still think Beth might have been the better GOAT than Tara.
No. I can see where
Ty.
you're going, because nobody likes her, but Ty definitely lost her vote. There was room for her to work. Going back to Tara, I think she played it off well, because if she does come in guns blazing, it might actually be her in Beth's position. So I think it worked out for her in the long run.
I mean, I just felt like I said last week, I don't think she was ever gonna come in guns blazing, because what the fuck is she gonna do? She has no allies.
She would have had to win HOH.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where it changed. When she didn't win HOH, she switched up tactics.
Well, she is our number 4. I mean, she's been at the bottom this whole goddamn time. Even though I do feel like she has a slight chance to win now, just because it's this far in the game. She's at a 3.6. Only a few of us graded her last week. She was at a 1.5 last week, because she was out of the game, and they turned off the feeds because the production's idiots. So she's up a 2.1 from that.
Yeah, I think that's a good ranking for her. I again went through and wrote down everybody's comp wins, how many times they were nommed, how many votes they had against them, and her resume is horrible. I mean, only 2 comp wins. One of those was a battle back to get back in the house. She's been nominated 4 times. She's had 2 votes against her, and she's won on the block and lost on the block. So,
like the excessive nominations and then winning the battle back, like pushes that resume up. If she makes it to final 2.
you know, I've had this debate in my head several times, and I think I've talked to Nick about it, how if you get somebody out and they come back in from a battle back and you still let them get to the final, I mean, that was a person you wanted out at one point. So maybe there is an argument that because she got back in the house and got to the end that she could win. But when I look at Bray, Ty, and Kiefer, she just doesn't stack up to the types of games that they've played to get to the end, in my opinion. At this point, I think maybe she gets some votes from somebody, maybe a bitter vote, but I think she loses to all 3 of them. And I think all 3 of them, their best chance of winning is to take her to the final 2 because she has no real shot.
I mean, it's always going to depend on the jury and if they're actually going to be bitter or be voting for the better player. Because I actually feel like her only chance might be against Deshawn, just if there's a bitter jury.
But as it stands right now, first, I mean, she has to win the veto. Because I think she does. I think in order to boost her resume, something that she could do, win the Final 4 veto and win the Final 3 HOH. I mean, you got back into the house, then you just won your way into the end. So that's not terrible. But I think, she basically has to win each competition, I think, to win the game at this point.
Mm-hmm. Unless now that it's like Final 4, they start really viewing the bigger targets as bigger targets, and she can use that to her advantage to get further.
For me, what it comes down to is the resumes and the style of play that you made throughout the game. And she didn't start playing, not even a social game. Whereas like Brayden has had a social game throughout the entire season. Tara just she coasted. We can get into the debate about floater versus a coaster. She was just house furniture up until the week that she won HOH. And then she got taken out and had to battle her way back in. She was of no real use to anybody's game, and that's why they got rid of her.
Yeah, I think her resume is really bad, honestly, but it just depends on if it's a bitter jury. She's not going to be Kiefer. Nobody's going to be Kiefer, I don't think. And I think she loses to Brayden for sure as well, I think, because Brayden would take votes that wouldn't vote for her. I just think she maybe could rally bitter votes against Deshawn if Deshawn doesn't own some things, I guess.
I bumped her up 2 points because I do see a path for her to win. It's just not a very likely path to happen, I think.
Even up against Ty, though, even if she gets those bitter votes, who does she get? She gets Tina would probably vote for her, and then she gets Beth.
Maybe Jed. Yeah, then I guess it depends on Rohan would maybe be the swing vote.
If she gets to the end, it could most likely be a 4-3 with whoever she's sitting next to winning, but it could be a 4-3 in her favor. It just depends how, minds can be swayed in the jury house.
Any other thoughts on Tara?
Props to her for, at least fighting back and not giving up, just trying to get back in the game. That's more than we can say about some people in a lot of different game shows. So I still don't particularly care for her, but A+ for the effort she's given, I guess, in the second half of the game.
Kiefer has fallen to number 3. He's at a 6.3. He's down 1 point. He's has to be likely to be going home this week. I still have him as number 1 just because if he makes the end, he's gonna win.
Do we know who's on the block yet? I mean, it has to be Tara and Kiefer,
It's gonna
right?
be it's gonna be Tara and Kiefer.
So
Wait.
I've been,
Deshaun.
yeah. So I've been arguing with folks on Reddit all day that think that Kiefer is a lock to win, and I just don't agree.
He's a lock. If he makes it.
That little picture I sent you, he hasn't done anything since week 6. I mean, he's had to scramble, and yes, his social game has been good to get him out of sticky situations, but he's
he's really technically the reason that Jed went.
Yeah,
He came up with the plan.
He hasn't done anything since week 6. His idea, the whole Jed trap door thing was Kiefer's idea, and that was a huge move.
It's an idea. An idea doesn't get folks out on its own.
Which was Ty's worst move, if you ask me, but we'll get to him.
Not even that. Go to the noms, go to the votes. Look at him, compare him to Ty. Ty's never seen the block. He's never got any votes against him. Kiefer has several. He's been on the block come eviction night twice.
Well, I think the biggest thing, though, is that literally everybody in their exit interviews are like, if Kiefer's at the end, he's going to win. So that's why I'm like, he probably is a lock to win if he makes the end. Just on what the jury are saying in their exit interviews.
I really don't think you can hold a ton of weight to how much somebody has been on the block, because if they make it to the end of the game, they've played a better game than somebody who hasn't touched the block because they've been there and survived. They've worked their way off of it, or they've won competitions to get themselves out of that situation. Like, Ty's played a great game. Yes, he hasn't been put up on the block, but he hasn't had to work as hard to keep his life in the game as Kiefer has. Kiefer was for sure going, and he turned it around and managed to stay. And now he's playing a very different game than he played in the first half, where the first half he was winning a lot of competitions. He was in this power player area, and now he's really calling the shots from behind the scenes and having other people do those things for him, which is getting him further in the game. I think he's playing a great game. He's a little sloppy here and there, right? But I think that he's overall played the best game.
You bring up a good point, though, that he's been on the block and he survived. Braden's been on the block more than him and survived. So if that's the argument, then Braden,
or as a pawn and not as a target. When Kiefer's on the block, he's there as a target and still manages to get away with it.
Yeah. Does he survive this week if he's on the block, do you think?
See, that I don't know.
He'd have to win the veto.
I don't even know if he goes home if he doesn't win the veto, if I'm being honest, but he probably should be the vote. I don't know where Braden's head's at.
There's different arguments to be made for it. It's just, for me personally, if I'm in the jury, I think it is a major feat to never see
100%.
the block. That is hard to do.
But I'm just playing devil's advocate. You can argue just as hard to say, I've been on the block every single week and I'm sitting here in the final 2. You couldn't get me out. You tried and you failed every single time.
Well, my point is that everybody's saying that Kiefer's a lock to win. I don't think it's a lock. I do think it's a split vote. That's where I'm kind of veering off the path.
You just mean against Tashawn or against everybody?
I think Braden and Ty get votes against Kiefer. I don't think it's unanimous. I think it could be split because I do think that they've all played really well games, and it's going to come down to who can articulate how they got to the end the best, with some bitter votes in there. But I don't think that he is a 100% guaranteed lock to win if he gets to the final 2. I think there's arguments to be made that Ty or Braden could beat him. I'm not saying they would, but that there's a chance.
I think they both get votes, but I still think he takes the win.
I think so too.
The thing with Ty, I think, is potential bitter jury votes. Braden, if you have Braden and Kiefer up next to each other, Braden now has as many comp wins as Kiefer. He's seen the block just as many times as Kiefer, but he was never actually the target. So there it is again, that it's two different lanes, same comp wins, same amount of times on the block, but somebody was the target the other time. The other person had such a good social game that they were never the target. So it's
all going to come down to like what kind of game the jury respects the most.
Yeah, which I have no idea what that would
And
be.
who knows with this crew? Yeah.
Any final words on Kiefer Days?
no, that's not the hill I'm going to die on.
Well, Braden is at number 2. He went up as much as Tara this week. He's at a 6.6, up 2.1 from last week. Because he finally did some things. Finally won some things.
He's been right there the entire season, right? Like he's been second place, third place in all these comps, and he finally reels off a couple comp wins to, really put him at the top of the hierarchy in the house. I mean,
3 in a row.
Yeah.
And we talk all the time about how it is a strategy to come in and not win competitions until the very end.
Yeah.
So we can't really for not winning until now if that's what he felt like his game.
Now, if he says, because I feel like he was really close to winning so many of these comps. If he says in the final, I didn't really want to win those comps. I just wanted to show that I could kind of do it, but I didn't want to win because then it puts a target on my back. I think that's something very important that he has to specify in the end. That was his actual strategy, was not to win those competitions in the beginning. But the big thing for me with Braden is how smooth the transition was from working with Austin and Roe and Kyle to all of them being evicted to him switching over and working with Beth and working with Tyshawn and somewhat of Kiefer and Tara. Like, it was seamless. I thought it was brilliant how he pulled it off.
He's been slowly interjecting himself in kind of everybody's alliances since the beginning. They've even mentioned, he's always around when we're having strategy conversations and he always wants to know what's going on. And I think that was part of his social game. And once he realized that his, closest allies were gone, he had to choose a side. And what better side to choose than the one that's in charge, and then also be in on the plan to get rid of one of them and take their place.
I mean, that's thinking about it. Like, how would I feel if every single one of my alliance members were being evicted? Like, the pressure is on. Like, how do I get out of this? Because in my mind, I'm next. I mean, I would have lost my mind and blown everything up.
Oh.
And and he kept his cool. I mean, there's something I love about him. I was completely wrong about his pre-season interview. Yeah. Not the type of person that I thought he was at all. Very maintains his cool under intense pressure. And I'm rooting for him. I really am. I think his social game has been great. I like seeing him reel off some wins in the end. Does he win against Kiefer? It could go either way. At this point, he wants to take Tyshawn. I think his better bet is to take Tara.
Yeah, that is his best bet, is to take Tara.
Yeah. If he takes Ty to the end, it might be, the bad move like Cody did with Derek. It could lose him in the game. I think his better shot at winning is with Tara. I don't think he's thinking that, and I think it could cost him the win in the end. It feels like Ty and Bray are dead set on taking each other to the final 2.
Yeah, probably. I also want to point out that our 3 people that have been number 1 this whole time are in the final 4. So Braden, Tyshawn, and Kiefer. And Tara, who's been at the bottom our whole time, is also there. So there's that too.
Yeah, and each of those 3, I think they have played great games. I think all 3 are deserving of winning the game. They've all had different paths, and their own strategy that they utilized, I think they did a really good job getting to this point. Now it's really down to this Final Four veto as to how, the rest of it plays out.
Well, Deshaun is back at number one. Kiefer was number one last week. Deshaun is up a little bit, 0.2 to a 7.3. He's the HOH, so he was also the person that was not winning comps until the end.
I really
think
do like him.
Shot, depending on I think he has a good shot because he is the nice guy, right? And the not nicest thing. Am I saying that wrong? The meanest thing or the whatever, you know what I'm trying to say, that he did, I think, honestly, was turning his back on Jed, even though it was best for his gameplay because it pushed him up in that spot because Jed was kind of the leader of that group, but it was done in kind of it was a dirty way, and it could bring bitterness out of the jurors.
I mean, how do you turn on your undercover brother and it not be dirty? I mean,
Big Brother needs this though, because people in these fucking huge alliances need to start doing this more often because it gets fucking boring. They get to the final six and then I don't know. But
I agree. I mean, Nick, I talked to you the other day about how the Discord org I played, my number 2 from day one cut me at the final 4. And I didn't see it coming at all. I still voted for her to win in the end. It's Big Brother. I mean, you're playing to win. You're playing for money. I mean, sometimes you got to make that move.
I agree. I just think that he could have, and I could say the same thing for Beth, but if I were Ty, I would have said, listen, I can be down with this plan. I can follow what you guys are doing, but I will not say his name in, when I'm casting my vote, but I'm okay with the rest of you saying his name, and I'll help have the conversations to move it in that direction.
But at that point, they needed his vote, basically, really. Or else it could have been Beth and him voting out.
What it's going to come down to Ty is owning the moves that he made. He's going to have to own them. He's not going to be able to shy away from it. It's like, look, I'm here to win some money. I had to, be brutal and do it this way. Please respect that as a game player and vote for me. My point I made earlier on Reddit, though, is how crazy it is that this 6'2", physically competitive black man in the house makes it to the end of the game without ever seeing the block. It blows my mind. In the US version, that never happens. Never, ever. That is a feat. But he is going to have some bitter votes against him. I think it will be Jed, Beth.
Here's my question, though, because there is a possibility of bitterness from Jed and Beth. But listen, nobody likes Beth. She gets on everybody's nerves. So she's going to have the Raven effect of like, she's fighting hard for Paul. She's fighting hard for Paul. So then everybody votes for Deshaun just to spite her.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I think he has a really great resume. I mean, he laid low. I mean, again, how does he make it this far without not being a target? In my mind, the winning move that he's made in this game was separating himself from this bullseye of a trio.
From the sauce.
Yeah, that was a huge move. Just distancing himself enough that it was Jed and Beth on the block instead of Jed and Ty, because it should have been Jed and Ty.
Alex said you were the Beth in the triangle between you, Van Guy, and Mike. Is that true?
Yes. After seeing Beth implode this week, 100% I am Beth. I accept that title. Yes.
I would not want to be stuck in a Big Brother house with you, just to be honest.
Oh, man. I don't think you're quite as bad as Beth. Honestly.
I mean, I'm messy. That's my go-to line when I apply for different orgs and whatnot. I'm messy. Cast me.
You're too paranoid.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Well, any last words for Tashawn? I too think he had a great. I mean, yeah, especially if he gets to the final 2 without being on the block. If he wins the final HOH, only Cody from fucking All Stars has done that. So, and Cody had the whole pregame alliance bullshit.
If Brayden takes him, to the final 2, it just blows my mind. Like I said, Kiefer, Tashawn, and Brayden, all of their winning moves is to get Tara to the final 2 beside them.
I don't think Tashawn's is, honestly. I think Tashawn's is to take Brayden.
I think
I mean-
Ty wins against Brayden or Tara, but it would be close against Keeper, and I don't know if he could pull that.
For me right now, the final 4 veto and the winner of the final 3 HOH means a lot going into this, because I do think all 3 of them are that close. And if any,
A lot on every season of Big Brother, though. These are like the 2 competitions that matter the most out of the whole show.
well, yeah, but if it's completely lopsided, even winning those 2 to get yourself there might not be enough to win. But I feel like these 3 are so close in the race that winning out just puts them over the edge where they can win against anybody. Like Brayden, if Brayden wins these last 2 comps, I think he wins against anybody.
I mean, my question is this final comp, is it the 3 stages just all going to be question and answers? Different question and answers.
The most physical thing we've seen is that pinball game.
Yeah, that we thought the big physical comps for the big burly men were going to be at the end of the season, and you still haven't seen them.
Yeah. I don't want shit about my competitions anymore, Days. With all these fucking question and answer comps.
I mean, I would love to see
At
an
the
endurance.
History questions. The ones where they're like, what? And hence, I don't really know, I guess, how they work to remember these things, because I know you can't like be writing shit down when you're in there. But in my mind, it would all be melding together.
I've tried it in different games that I've played, and I can't do it without writing it down. I know a lot of people's strategies for remembering days and what happened is to use the Bible. I don't know if I've ever opened a Bible, so I don't know if I would be able to use that.
Yeah, you'd have to have everything memorized.
So I mean, props to whoever is able to do that, because it's difficult. But they all seem pretty well versed on how things have happened throughout the season. So it could be anybody's game.
Different when you're in there and you're actually living it, and you, I don't know, actually know what day all of this is happening. Like, I don't know what day any of it happened. I'm like, oh, that was 3 weeks ago. But what the fuck day was that? I don't know.
I mean,
I guess they also have all day to do nothing, and then
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe if I think of like rerun the day in my head over and over and do it each and every day, maybe. But I've never been in the Big Brother house and in that situation, so I don't know how well I do.
Hopefully I'll have a chance to tell you.
I hope
Start
so
practicing.
Oh, it is what? April 30th. And so
So who's everybody rooting for? I mean, I know we know where everybody ranks them, but who do you want to win?
Either Tashawn or Kiefer, because I feel like they played the good games.
yeah, I agree.
I'm still hoping for a Brayden win. I'm not gonna lie. He's
I
really
wouldn't
grown.
mind a Brayden win, I guess. Tara, though, that'd be terrible. That'd be a
Yeah.
terrible winner.
It would be terrible.
I think Canada agrees. Hopefully.
No,
And hope-
Reddit seems to like her.
That's what Alex says, and I haven't seen it. Maybe we're on 2 different Big Brother Reddits. I don't know. There are two of them.
Well, any final thoughts on the season overall, since this is our last podcast on the season?
Are we not having one next week?
No.
We'll know the winner. No more rankings.
Yeah, I don't feel like doing a recap.
As far as rankings, though, this ranks so far above most of the US versions that I've watched. I'm glad I chose this Canada season to start watching because I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, the cast has been entertaining. The production and the episodes have been terrible, but they've tried to ruin their good feeds. But other than that, it has been an entertaining season. Not my favorite Big Brother Canada season, but
I'm glad I got to watch BB Canada. I'm excited. I'm gonna go back and try to watch some previous seasons when my TV commitments slow down a little bit.
After this week.
3 episodes a week is just a lot.
it is a lot.
And you know, I usually watch them live in the summertime for BBUS because my husband and I watch them together. And you know, my kids like it too, but this one, it's just like remembering to keep up with it, and I'm like streaming it off of the internet, so I have to like, you know,
can't set your DVR to record it.
right. And I'm normally just like laying in bed, like playing on my phone, watching TV, and I can't do that except it's just annoying. But I'll deal.
Well, I gave up on the episodes like midway through the season, so other than Thursday episodes, easier to watch live feeds in my opinion.
Yeah.
I
So all
just read the recaps.
Well, I guess that does it for our BB Can 9 season. I think we've ranked pretty well with all of our number ones this season in the final 4.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
I think it says a lot too to have the person that we had at the bottom the whole time in the final 4. And I think we've showed that rank has also been kind of spot on because of course somebody's going to be bringing along this like non-threat low ranking player to the end.
And she was technically voted out.
Yeah, right. I think we've been pretty spot on.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, yes.
I agree. Better than a certain popular Big Brother podcast, I'd say. I'll leave it at that.
Shade.